Oh, fuck. Hello, mate. Keith Lyle. I couldn't remember your name then. Had a total blank. I was thinking funny.
Yeah.
Funny. All right, funny Keith Lyle. So hello, Keith Lyle. Welcome to Just CHOPSING podcast. This is my co-host, David.
How you doing, man? All right?
Hey, guys. I'm great. Good to see you.
And you?
Sorry about that, man. I had a total blank there. So, how's it going?
I'm great. Great to be on the podcast. You guys do a great job. I was catching up, listening to a couple of them the last few days, and really good stuff.
All right, thank you. I mean, we're not professional comedians like yourself, but
well,
we do.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of unprofessional comedians out there. People trying to call themselves comedians that go out and they try their best. But it's great. It's great to reach a broader audience too. I'm based in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So and I spent a lot of time here in Vegas working in the casinos as a dealer. So
you dealing cocaine?
Yes, that's usually what people say. It's when people say hit me, it's a different kind of hit me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Look, I got yeah, it's a
yes. Well,
that's actually a balloon pump.
Now pot is legal in Las Vegas, and so now we call it the high desert.
Okay.
They replaced the smell of the casinos. They used to smell like urine and desperation, and now it smells like weed.
I don't know which one's worse.
I know, it's everywhere. You can't walk around like the downtown area. It's just pot. That's all you smell. And I feel terrible. People are walking around with their kids, but it's like, why are you bringing your kids to Vegas? This is just like one more reason not to.
Yeah. So it's a lot like Amsterdam now, then.
Yeah. Well, if Amsterdam smells like piss, desperation.
No, it smells like weed.
Weed, yeah. It's crazy. At least that you could like it's like weed and coffee, right?
Yeah.
This is just nothing. Just weed and now it's hot, so it's body odor.
Oh man, yeah.
It's like 113 or something. I think it cooled off today to 110, so everyone's excited. We'll be outside.
I don't know what that is in centigrade. Do you know what that is in centigrade?
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys have centigrade. I'm sorry. Let's see, like 40 maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, maybe less. Yeah, 35.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. I mean, I went to Las Vegas. How long ago was it? 15, 16 years ago, I think. It was boiling, man. It was like 45 degrees centigrade.
Yeah, that's about what it is. Yeah, because I think you got to double it plus at 32. And
okay.
Math. Come on, I'm American. Our schools suck. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Trump's pretty good at any.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Great. His math. We're right around. We'll get this COVID licked. We're right around the corner. We've been right around the corner for 18 months.
Yeah. Did you say math or meth?
Oh, math. Sorry. Yeah. Well, it looks like.
I mean, Trump's math's not bad.
Yeah. Looks like he's going to get another term. It's going to be in prison, but.
Oh.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Great. Now I'm going to get all the Trump haters at my house, knocking my door down, storming my castle.
Yeah, with it.
What could you do?
So how actually did you get into dealing cards then?
Okay, so I grew up in Chicago, and it was just too like the snow and it was just crazy with the wind, and I just wanted to go somewhere else. And I had a cousin that was in Las Vegas going to college. And so that's exactly what I did. I came here to go to school at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, at university. And it was the most inexpensive school in the country other than Hawaii. But the cost of living in Hawaii is so expensive. Vegas was the only place I could afford. And I paid my way through college working as a dealer in the casino, table games dealer. So I would deal craps from like noon to 8. I'd go to school from like 9 to 11:30 every day, Monday through Friday. I took 12 to 15 hours of classes, 4 to 5 classes, and I got out of school. And then, by that point I was making almost 40,000 a year, which when, 26, 27 seems like a lot of money. And I didn't really want to go back to start over to making no money again after I got out of school. So I just stuck with it and did it for almost 25 years. Eventually got to a good job where I was making about 75,000 American, which is pretty good for Vegas.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, you'd think
Yeah, I
they'd
was
be
at-
on a lot more, wouldn't you? But
You would think, well, it's all tips, so which is something Europeans, I know that you guys don't do very much, but it's a way for the business owners to not have to pay their staff.
Yeah.
So everyone makes pretty much minimum wage, and then you rely on tips. So which kind of sucks. So when people talk about socialism or communism, everyone makes the same thing.
yeah.
So whether you put in or don't put in, everyone makes the same thing, and they don't allow you to berate the other coworkers to say, "Hey, jerk off, go out there, make some money," and they don't allow that. So I learned that the hard way.
I think in Europe that's called a 0 hours contract.
Yeah. But that's just the way it is, and it's like a factory job because the people change, the games are the same. It's incredibly tedious, and when you're dealing with people losing money and being drunk all the time, it's the two things sometimes don't mix, and it always made me laugh when drunk people get angry at losing. It makes me laugh. They start yelling, screaming. It's like watching a Karen. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, imagine. Because in the casinos as well. I mean, when I was there, the drinks were all free as long as you tip the waitress.
Mm-hmm.
So you're drinking cocktails and you're gambling, and it's like, I mean, I was lucky enough to won a few $1,000, and it ended up paying for my whole trip. But yeah, I mean, we were really lucky at the time. But yeah, you can't believe
That's
it, man.
fantastic.
It's free drinks, and
that's how they get you. They get you to start making bad decisions. It's time's never your friend in the game of chance. Because people would ask me like, "What games do you play?" And I'm like, "Gambling's for suckers. What are you, crazy? The only way to leave the casino with a small fortune is start with a large one. I want no part of that. I work too hard for my dough, man. I got to split it with every other putts in the place. I don't.
Yeah. Do you have to pool your tips then?
Yeah, it's a pool. It starts at 4 a.m. and goes to 4 a.m, and you pool with every other dealer at the table games. Poker's separate. Poker, they keep their own tips for themselves. But so like the big spinny wheel that just spins in a circle like the Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
That makes no tips ever. So you got to give that guy a cut. And if someone's standing on a table with nobody on it, you got to give that guy a cut. Every time the casino adds a fee, like a resort fee or parking, people are less inclined to tip.
Yeah.
And it's the corporation's way of getting that tipped income, because at a place like the last place I worked at, the Venetian Palazzo, we had, there were 50, 60, $70,000 in pooled tips, but that split between, 400 or 500 dealers. But the casino sees it. Yeah, the casino sees it as, wow, that's, $60,000 we could have every day multiplied by a week, a month, a year. And that's the way they calculate it. So it's kind of the service industry is kind of dying for that kind of stuff here in America. So, and I saw the end coming. So I went into something I can make even less money at, and that's stand-up comedy.
Yeah. I mean, what'd you get, like $15 a show or something?
25, 50, 100, sometimes 300 if you're headlining, but if you get really good and the famous guys, like the Chappelles and the Joe Rogans, those guys are making, 100,000 a pop minimum. And, the guy at your regular comedy club that you see headlining probably makes between $250 to $1,000 a show. And it's fun, but you got to find other revenue streams. That's why the merch is so important. I don't sell merch because I just don't feel like any of my material is good enough to put on a T-shirt that would, sell. And I'm not like that. And who guys wants to see a CD or DVD anymore? So I'd rather just make funny videos and tell jokes on Twitter and TikTok and hope someone wants to pay me to influence. I don't know.
Yeah, well, how did you actually get into stand-up then? I mean, obviously you made a transition from the casino to the stage.
It's a good question. It's a tricky story because casinos, the casino managers don't have a real good sense of humor. Like someone would ask, "Where's the bathroom?" And I'd say, "Just go anywhere. The whole place is a toilet." They don't like that. They don't like that. One of the dice would go off the table and someone would bend over to pick it up, and I'd make a sound as soon as they bent over, so it sounded like they were fighting. And I do this every day, all the time, and they just never, I get in trouble for doing that, and they wrote me up for excessive flatulence.
Oh, right.
Okay. Yeah. So I wrote, I get to write a comment on there. My rebuttal was, "He who smelt it dealt it." Like,
Yeah.
who writes on? Like, you're gonna discipline me for screwing around? Like, just say stop screwing around. Like, all right.
Yeah.
So I transitioned into improv first, improvisational comedy. We had Second City here in Las Vegas, and it was great, but it wasn't. If you've seen improv, very little of it is entertaining. Very little of it gets laughs, and I just want to make people laugh. I was at my game on the table. All I would do is just bust chops, break balls, laugh all day. In the break room, we were just, because that's how you get through the day. And when I was growing up, the bullies wouldn't bully you if you were funny, and the mean girls would kind of think you were cute if you made them laugh. And finally, at the age of like 35 or 36, I finally got on stage and started doing stand-up. And it was right around the time I booked the movie The Hangover. We filmed The Hangover. I was the dealer in The Hangover. I got an audition. They were going around looking for improvisers and things, so I got an agent. This was my second audition ever. I didn't know, at the time, they give you a few pages of the script, so you don't really know what it is. I knew who the director was. He directed a couple of things. What did he like Starsky and Hutch. He directed a couple of movies, so I was familiar with him. Bradley Cooper wasn't a known entity. I knew Zach Galifianakis through stand-up, but and Ed Helms from The Office, but no one knew what this thing they had called The Hangover. Then we started filming it, and they were telling me what they've done. And on the set, you knew that this thing was just unbelievable. It was great, and everyone on the set was awesome. Zach Galifianakis and I talked a lot about stand-up. I was just getting into it, and he had given me so many great tips and pointers. It was really helpful. And I just started, and I hooked up with a guy named Don Barnhart, who really liked me and took me around to open for him. So I got to tour the country with him, went overseas for Armed Forces Entertainment a few times with him, and it just built from there. Now I'm a house MC at Jokesters Comedy Club in Las Vegas and Delirious Comedy Club. I still go on tour a little bit. I'm doing more family stuff now since COVID, but I'm getting ready to go back out.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you, because obviously I got the Hangover there.
Yeah,
so ask you about the Hangover. It's an amazing movie. And I was talking to Terry before you came on, and I said I watched them again, and it's just really hard to pick out kind of like a favorite moment of the movie, because it's just so many.
Yeah,
it's, absolutely awesome. It's just so good. And like the second one is the sequels are normally difficult to do, but the second one is still really, really good as well. And the third one as well. It's not quite as funny as the other two, but it's still really, really good. And there's still a lot of original stuff in it as well.
Yeah, they were really smart with it, because every scene built on the last scene. There was no scene. Every scene was good on its own if you were just to watch the scene and go, wow, that's funny. But when you build it on top of each scene, on top of the other scene, on top of the other scene, the tiger and the this and the guy chasing you, it's like, it just all comes together so beautifully. And they did such a great job with it. It's fantastic. I have like the only part in the movie that isn't funny. They asked me like, hey, do you want to do something? And I was like, can I jump on the table and tell them, I know you're just take me with you, get me out of here. They're like, no, it doesn't work. And we spent 4 days shooting that little 4-minute scene, and there's a bunch of it that didn't make it in. But I like, if you watch the director's cut of the DVD, the director, Todd, says something very nice. He says I'm a good actor, which is, at the time, I'm better now than I was then, but it was really not true. So I appreciate that.
Nice. Did you ever have any? Sorry, mate. Did you have any real life experience when you were dealing in with a Rain Man type character?
Well, it's easy. That was part of in my audition. They asked like, hey, if you see a guy counting, what do you do? Because you can't turn to your boss and go, hey, this a-hole over here is counting cards. Get him out of here. I was like, you just have to shoot him a look, and shoot him a look, and then you just kind of, try to get him over, and you just keep going. And then as a dealer, it's not up to you, but the eye in the sky gets involved. And I said you could probably shoot from the eye, and there's one little split-second shot from the eye in the sky, which was my suggestion. And we filmed it at the Riviera when it was open, and it was a live casino. There were people yelling through the whole shoot all night long. It was crazy. But yeah, that's how it came up. And I kind of suggested, like, if you want to do a craps table thing, there's a whole thing you could do at the craps table. They're like, no, we just want to do the blackjack thing. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then it was, some funny stuff. They had me set up. They had a real $10,000 cash that was counted out on the table. So that's like $100 bills. And the prop guy was in charge of it. And he was freaking out because that's 10 grand, right? And he's responsible for it. So every time we did it, we shot it a couple times. And then when I gave it back to him, I palmed one of the hundreds. So he was counting it back, and he's got to count to 100 through this thing, and I had one in my hand, and I showed Zach and Bradley Cooper that I had it. And he's like, I don't have it. Count it again. So he's counting on it. So then I get it back. Now I start counting. I go, let me count it again. I counted again. I got it. And he must have spent a half hour counting that money when I had it the whole time. And finally I stopped. There we go. I stopped, and I was like, I never let him in on it. It was just our little secret. I was like, try it now. And he's like, I'm just going to take it back while it all is 100. Yeah. And that's how the set was. Everyone was busting each other's chops. It was great. It was totally laid back. And I remember my hairdresser saying how much of a gift this set was for my first movie, to have no stress and no egos.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that on any of the other films I was on. So
what other films have you been on then?
I was in Get Him to the Greek. I was Jonah Hill's. I was in Jonah Hill's stand-in for that. We're the same height. I'm not quite as wide as him, and I spent 6 days with that. Russell Brand is fantastic. What a great guy. This was before Katy Perry too. He was so nice. He got me, like, he tweeted my name out, and I ended up with like 100,000 Twitter followers. It was
that's cool.
Crazy. Yeah, it was when Twitter first started. What a great guy. Jonah Hill was decent. P. Diddy. He's hysterical. They cut out all his funny stuff. This guy, he's funny. He is legit funny. He was sitting right now. He had a lot of security. We were filming on the Strip, and I was a little weird by how much security he had. And then it dawned on me that he was in the car when Biggie Smalls got shot, and we were actually, near the spot where Tupac got shot. So I think he was a little like, so he had a lot of security, but he was incredibly nice and so funny. He's underrated as funny goes, P. Diddy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that. And then I worked again with Jonah Hill as a stand-in on War Dogs.
Okay.
With Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper actually remembered me. It's the same director as The Hangover. He remembered me. So I spent some time with those guys. Yeah, it's been a charmed life, really, because for only being in the game for a few years, I got very, very lucky.
What does a stand-in do then?
Okay, so you stand there, you have the same colored clothes, the same size for the most part, so they could set the lights and camera. Okay. So that the actors don't have to be there. So they could be in their trailer or working on their lines or rehearsing or doing whatever. They got better things to do than to stand there to move the lights and everything. It's like a glorified extra.
Right.
Sometimes they give you a line, like Get Him to the Greek, they gave me a line, but they cut it out. So they get to upgrade you for the day. So you get paid a little extra for the day for that. So it's one of those kind of things. But but to be on a movie set with, really famous people watching, and I went from Hangover, then the very next year they filmed Get Him to the Greek, and to watch the differences in sets, like in The Hangover, they did their lines and then they improvised a little bit and they knew who their characters were and they just went with it. The director let them go. In Get Him to the Greek, they had a couple of writers kind of feed them some ideas and feed them lines to see where that took them. So it was two different ways to get to the same kind of laugh.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Get Him to the Greek kind of got weird because I think they went after they filmed it. There was an economic downturn, and I think they wanted it to play better in Europe because European money was a little, like the euro was worth more than the dollar. So I think they kind of changed the ending. I mean, that's just my opinion because they have a lot of very good footage of P. Diddy that they didn't use.
Yeah,
So I don't know. And maybe it was the studio that said, hey, listen, we'd rather go in Russell Brand's direction because he was definitely the hot guy at the time.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And just such a nice guy. We thought, Russell Brand, the day after 9/11, he went to work at BBC dressed as Bin Laden. Like, that's guts. Like, to do that is guts, man. That's not funny, but I mean, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Show that one Ali G.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Well, Sacha Baron Cohen,
Yeah.
the other one, like, he's unbelievable. He's fantastic.
What do you think of Ricky Gervais's comedy then?
Oh, he's awesome. I really like him and I really admire him because he tells a joke, and if you don't like the joke, you get offended. He defends the joke because the problem we have in comedy now is people like being offended. That's just the way the world is. They go out to look to be offended, and we see it sometimes in comedy clubs. Something completely innocuous they get upset about. And it's some of it is because people don't understand who's the butt of the joke, right? So there's always a butt of the joke. They're always putting something down, and usually it's what's called punching up, right? It's the reason why you make fun of someone with higher status. It's the reason why minorities make fun of white people and can get away with it. They're the minority. They're punching up. Mm-hmm. Where if white people make fun of black people, it's racist, which it is. Because you're the majority, you're the social majority. And people don't understand that. And actually, the people who get most offended are by anything racial is white people. They don't understand how racism works. Still, they don't understand what the butt of a joke is. It's and you can't explain it to them. But Ricky Gervais, he's hysterical. He pulls no punches, and he's well thought out. He could, he could say something offensive, but really doesn't. And if you're offended by him, he'll tell you, change the channel. Don't listen. Don't listen. Yeah. And there's no reason to cancel him because he hasn't said anything that's cancelable. He's not diddling little kids. He's not touching women. He's not saying anything racist or sexist or misogynist. He just says something that you don't like.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah. I mean, we're both Ricky Gervais fans, David and myself, and he's really clever.
Yeah. He's incredibly well thought out, and I'm glad. In America, he doesn't necessarily get the credit he deserves, but he's incredibly well thought out and very, very funny. I really admire him.
I mean, The Office in America. I mean, I've watched the American version of The Office, and it doesn't really translate that well. Because if you watch the British version, it's really dry humor.
Yes. Yeah.
And the American version is just like, it's like they're trying too hard, if you like.
It's the American version is more character driven because they're trying to get you to watch the next episode. Okay. Whereas the British version is like, we're just funny and we're going to make everyone uncomfortable. Yeah. And and that's why it's totally dry. Where in America, if you make people uncomfortable, they'll change the channel.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it needs to be more like Friends, if you like, than
yes.
Than The Office.
Yes. Exactly.
That's what I like about it the most is the fact that you feel uncomfortable when you watch it. So all the stuff that he's been releasing on Netflix and what have you, Gervais, I love it. It's so good. It's just really, really clever, really good.
Yeah, he's just a funny guy. That's the heart of the whole thing, is watching people be uncomfortable and then you relating to it. And it's great. And I really like I enjoyed the Office version here, but I see it for what it is. And to a certain extent, I don't know if you guys got the TV show Modern Family.
Yeah, we've got it in Holland.
Yeah, it's similar, but it's similar to The Office in the way they film it.
Yeah.
But it's about just a more modern American type family, which is really character driven. It's more character driven, but
Yeah,
it's
it is,
brilliantly written. Brilliant.
Yeah, it is very good. But I remember The Office the first time around when it was first on
Right.
UK television, and when it first came on, you didn't know if it was a real, like a documentary program and it was like, who the fuck's this guy? It's like, is this a real office or what? It's like,
yeah,
we don't know what's going
Who would
on.
work for this guy? Yeah, right. It was like a prank. You didn't know you were in on it.
Yeah,
It was like a hidden camera prank. Right. Is this for real? It's like a reality show.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's how it was filmed.
Reality shows were really popular there then, and so it was good. I saw him in the casino one time, but I didn't get a chance to. He was just walking through.
Oh, right.
It was too bad. I would have I get to in the casino. I met tons and tons and tons of famous people. Yeah, like J-Lo's not a nice person.
No, well,
I would imagine she wasn't really.
You can kind of figure that one out for yourself, can't you? I mean,
she's cheap. Her and Mark Anthony, her I don't know, middle husband. I don't know which one he was. Like, she goes with people just for whatever she wants to do in the business. Like, now she's back with Ben Affleck, which means she wants to be an actress again. Before that, she was with A-Rod. He does a lot of entrepreneurial stuff, investments. So she wanted to do that. Before that, she was with Mark Anthony. He's a Hispanic singer. So she wanted to get her street cred with the Hispanics. Everything's with a reason for this woman. Mm-hmm. So one day they were at the Venetian where I worked, and they were sitting in the salon, which is kind of a high limit area. It's not private, but it's, away from the public. And they were playing $5 blackjack, which is fine. But like, they were running around. They had a butler. They were running them around. They didn't really tip them. And it's like, what are you doing? Laughing, making a lot of noise. Like, just not a good person. I'll tell you, Britney Spears' ex-husband was really nice. That Kevin guy.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a really nice guy. He came to, he used to, we had a really popular nightclub at our casino, and he would do, he'd make some of his own money, doing private personal appearances there. And he came down, he gambled. We talked a little bit, and it's like, you can bring your wife down to the table. We'll, watch out for her, make sure she doesn't, she's like, with the he didn't want the cameras around or anything. And she came down for a minute, and she was nice. She introduced herself, met us. She was Britney Spears, very, very sweet girl. But for 5 minutes,
Yeah. Then she went back to a hotel room and shaved her hair off, I expect.
Yeah, right. So the crazy Britney Spears is the one you love. The crazier the girl, the more attractive they are. If she's normal, no one's gonna like her.
Yeah, but how long was she married to that guy for? It wasn't long, was it?
A couple years, 2-3 years.
Oh, was it that long? Yeah. I thought it was more like a couple of months. But
no.
It
was a little longer. I'll tell you, Paris Hilton isn't allowed in the Venetian. She was up at the nightclub called Tao, her and her sister, and she just peed on the floor. I don't know if she didn't want to use the bathroom, if something happened in the bathroom, but she just was in the VIP area, pissed on the floor, just right there. And so, like, they have to, when you do that in America, it's a health hazard. You got to shut the area down. You got to get hazmat suit people in there to wipe it down. So they just 86'd her, threw her out of the place, never to come back. So this high roller, who's also named J Lo, LHO, he's a Malaysian hedge fund guy who's now indicted for embezzlement or fraud or something. But anyway, this guy Lo is a huge tipper, huge. I mean, like, one of the biggest in the world. So he comes in, and they got a DJ for him. They got a whole setup for this guy because he's got a $10 billion line of credit or something, and he brings Paris Hilton with him, and they're like, hey, you could stay, but she's got to leave. She's not welcome on property at all. And every dealer in the place wanted to choke security, the casino manager, like, no, leave her here. We don't let her piss on the floor. We'll clean it up. This guy tips $1 million. And again, $1 million split amongst 400 or 500 people is a big sum of money.
Yeah.
So yes, but he left.
Yeah, well, yeah. And he, what do you say, he deals in hedge funds?
Yeah, he was like a hedge fund guy or something, and he ended up in some kind of fraud or Ponzi scheme with.
I was going to say, yes.
With the Malaysian government, with a bunch of government people. It's a big deal. It's a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
deal. And but he's such a nice guy. There was a major drug dealer who was such a nice guy that when they arrested him and it was on the news, like I was sitting in the break room, and the floral people were like, "Oh no, not him. He gives us $200 whenever we bring flowers to the room." You know, I was so I mean that's kind of how people are judged sometimes here in Vegas. You know, like the Hollywood Madam Heidi Fleiss. She's a good tipper, so I mean, she, you know, God bless her. Everyone loves her.
Yeah, well,
Charles,
Paris obviously didn't think the hotel or the casino smelled like piss enough.
it smelled enough like piss, right?
Fed up with the
Yeah,
weed smell.
We needed a little more piss and desperation. It smells too much like weed, and she just pissed on the floor. Yeah, but Ben Affleck's one of the big tippers too. So when he was going through his turmoil with his wife, he would come into the casino and they'd bring him in the back way, and we'd sneak him up and make sure that no one knew he was there. No one had any idea, and he was with a different woman at the time. But no one said anything because you don't want to piss that guy off, because that guy's a, you know, $50,000-$60,000 a time tipper if he loses. If he wins, it's even more.
All right, okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great
Yeah.
job, really, but
Yeah.
obviously it's not that fantastic. But
Sometimes.
yeah, it can be. Yeah, yeah. Did anybody ever give you a car?
No, that has happened. There's a guy named Kerry Packer. His son was he passed away, but his son owns his empire now. He's big in Australia. He owns a couple casinos and then some media down there. He was engaged to Mariah Carey for a while,
Okay.
the son. But the father was a guy who would go around and give someone a car. He gave a whole craps table of cars. He'd pay off people's houses. Yeah, but he passed away. And when he died, they wanted to hold a parade for him on the Strip. There was one drug dealer, Jimmy Chagra. He's the guy who hired Woody Harrelson's dad to kill allegedly hired Woody Harrelson's dad to kill a federal judge, which he did.
Okay.
He was a drug smuggler, and he was such a big tipper in the 80s that the dealers at Caesar's Palace gave him a trophy that said "World's Greatest Craps Player." And they let him out. He went to jail. He eventually went to jail, in prison for many, many years. And they let him out because he was going to die of cancer. So they do something for people like that. So yeah, so they let him out, and he was actually on my craps table, and he was telling me all these great stories about. And the one thing, you know, when the IRS came and took everything, when the feds came, they took everything. The one thing he wanted to keep was that trophy. It meant so much to him that the dealers in the casino liked him that much. They went out of their way to buy him a 6-foot trophy.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's Woody Harrelson's dad.
Woody Harrelson's dad committed that murder. Yes.
Yeah, did
Went
he?
to
I
jail.
didn't know that.
He went
Did
to
you know that, Dave?
well,
No.
he went to jail for shooting a federal judge,
That's
allegedly
crazy.
at the hands of Jimmy Chagra. And this guy, Jimmy Chagra, his lawyer was a guy who went on to become the mayor of Las Vegas, Oscar Goodman,
Oh, right, okay.
who's
So
famous for
Jimmy-
being a mob lawyer. Yeah.
Oh, right. So, but did Jimmy Chadra end up in jail, or did he end up dead?
He ended up in jail. He they had him dead to rights.
Ah, right, okay.
So he did end up in jail for about 25 years. Yeah.
Well, at least they both they could have shared a cell.
Yeah. And now, you know, Woody, I don't think he talks about it very much, but he's doing
No,
okay.
I mean, he could have given his dad a few dollars to help him out rather than let him be a hitman, you know?
Well, I think at the time Woody was just a child.
Oh, okay.
I don't think, because Woody's first big thing was Cheers, which is another great TV show.
yeah.
And I don't think he'd hit with that yet.
Because he was pretty young in that, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was young, and he was just, you know, a young actor, and he hadn't quite made it yet.
Well, maybe his dad was paying for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
who
needed the
knows?
money.
I mean, these guys hide money everywhere. I'm telling you, I've met more criminals in Vegas, more people that have done jail time that have money, like not who you think are criminals, you know, Ponzi schemes, and a 77-year-old guy they arrested at the table and for a Ponzi scheme, like 20 something years, who was running a Ponzi scheme. I mean, guys get to die in jail, but hey, you committed the crime.
Yeah, but
Unbelievable.
would you imagine that there's like a lot of criminals trying to wash their money through the casino system?
Back in the 80s, there was. My father-in-law started working in casinos in like 1958 or 59. So he worked for the mob guys. He was a straight man, but he worked for the mob guys. And there's ways to do it. Used to be. Now you just do it through Bitcoin and stuff like that. There's no reason to even walk through the casino. And about 10, 15 years ago, they changed it so that the federal government, at any time you buy in a casino for $10,000 in a day, they get your information, and it's for money laundering. Like, people think it's for taxes. Like Leonardo DiCaprio, he was banned from the Venetian for a while. He was a poker player, and he bought in for a certain amount of money in the casino, and they asked for his like driver's license and social security number, which is what they do, and he wouldn't give it up, so they banned him from playing, which is what they do. And he thought it was for taxes. He thought it was for either taxes or I don't know what he thought. But then he came in one night with this low guy from Malaysia, and he's throwing around $25,000 chips. DiCaprio ends up with like 285,000 in chips. So he goes to cash it out, and they're like, "We're going to need to see this ID that you won't give us." And he goes, "Okay, no problem." And then they explained it to him why they have to do it. It's for money laundering. It's not for anything else. Like, if you take that 285,000, give it back to the guy, now or use those chips to pay for plumbing work, now you're money laundering. Now you're avoiding taxes on the income of the person. The plumber is avoiding taxes, not you necessarily. So that's how they do it. Yeah. So when people come into the casino and they like steal chips, like a thief steals the big money chips, first, you can't cash them out because they keep track of those. So like the $100 chips you could probably get away with, but $500 chips, absolutely not. So the way you have to know someone on the inside. And I know of a guy who was able to make off with probably a little over $1 million from a casino because he had people on the inside who, like, when he would get someone to steal a chip, a couple of chips, give them to him, and get someone on the inside to write that he lost, that he won those chips at the table.
Yeah.
So it looked like he bought in for a certain amount, lost a certain amount, and cashed out those chips so he could go to the cage and have the cashier give him the cash. And he was able to get away with it for a couple of years.
Pretty clever.
And he told me about it because he wants me to write a film about it now that the statute of limitations is over.
Right. Okay. So he can't be prosecuted.
Right.
Cool. Okay. So I got a bit of a double. Yeah, it's a bit of a double question now. I mean, when you were dealing tables then, or working on the tables, I should say, and you tell people what your job is, how would people react to that?
Being a dealer or being a comedian?
I'm going to ask you about being a comedian in a minute, but first of all, being a dealer.
So when you tell people you're a dealer, they always think it's like, oh, that's the coolest thing. First, they think like, oh, you got any on you? And I have to explain to them, no. Table games. They go, oh, how do you win? It sounds like so much fun. I want to do that when I retire. And then, I don't want to ruin their fun
dream.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's great. People ask, where do you live in Las Vegas? Because like, do you live in the casino? Like, yeah, the 7th floor, but the maids are on the 14th floor. Like, what do you think? It's not a cruise ship. People don't understand. So those are the questions I get. What do you do? Because people don't understand that Vegas is like, it's a city. We have an American football team. We have hockey. We have arts. We have it's not just what you see on the strip. Like I've never been in the Wynn Casino. It's been open like 15 years. Like, why would I go? Unless I'm working there, I got no reason to go.
Yeah.
So we don't really, it's just like a city like you would anywhere else,
I suppose.
The question I get most often.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the strip, which everybody sees on the TV or in the movies, so everybody automatically thinks that that's Las Vegas. I mean, they don't understand that there's a whole city around it, really.
Yeah, and I need to explain to people, Vegas does have rules. Like, you can't just, do whatever you want. You can't just throw up in the bathroom and, you piss on the floor. in a nightclub. Like, it has rules, and the rules pretty much apply to everyone. So don't think you can, if like someone says, hey, you can't do that, some of it, just don't do it.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. Like on a craps table, you're only supposed to hold the dice in one hand, not switch hands with the dice. It's because, if you had an extra set of dice, you'd be able to, a loaded dice, you'd be able to change them out. So they're not doing it. People aren't doing it just to be a jerk. They're doing it because there's a reason. You can't touch the cards. You can't, like, there's a reason for it. So just please adhere to the rules. That's all.
Yeah.
Get drunk, don't get sloppy.
Yeah, that's the trouble. Like I said, with all them free drinks floating around, though, it gets
act like you've been drunk before. I mean, you've been drunk before. You know how to do it right. Have a little class.
Yeah. And so, how do they react when you tell them you're a comedian? Then a stand-up.
Well, it's usually tell me a joke, and I'm always like, for that you got to buy a ticket. That's usually what I tell. But or I tell them some really filthy joke that like totally offends them, so they just don't bother me anymore. Like on a plane, I just tell people I teach Lamaze or something, because I don't like to, I just want to be left alone. Tell them like because then they go like, oh, tell me a joke, or they want to tell you a joke, and they tell you a joke that's so racist.
Yeah.
Where it's like, geez, thanks. you could use this one in your skit, and they tell you the most racist joke. Like, that's a good one, huh? That's a good. Oh yeah, that's great. I'll be sure to use that the next Klan rally.
Yeah.
They do with this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you went abroad then to cheer up the troops? That must have been pretty good.
I come from a family that isn't very military. We're Jewish, so we don't really fight. We fight. We complain. We don't really fight. We argue. We don't fight. So to go over and do that is really special. Got to go to Afghanistan about 8 years ago, maybe. Yeah, about 8 years ago, and there was like bombs going off and everything. Kuwait a few times, Jordan a few times, Ethiopia. I saw a baboon in Ethiopia jump out of the jungle, grab a bottle of beer, run back into the jungle. Like, that's crazy. Like they have people at these remote airports in Ethiopia. They have people they hire to stand on the runway to beat back the baboons to keep them from running out. They're like pests there. And it's funny because the baboons are racist. When they see a black person in Ethiopian, they get scared. When they see a white person, their hand is out to shake the hand, because the hand gives them like bananas and cookies and hepatitis and, diabetes. You know what I mean? So the monkeys are racist. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I got to see some great things, but it's really, the best part is really hanging out with the troops. The show is really just an afterthought. It's there. We do it. It's enjoyable. They enjoy it, but it's really to hang out with them and break up the monotony of their day, because it's not just the show. You go around to the base, you basically meet everyone on the base. And that's really what it's all about. I like, meeting the guy who cleans the wheels of the fire engine truck. He's got a mundane job and he hates it. He joined the service, and that's what they told him to do. And just to, tell him a dirty joke and make his day a little better, make him, know that someone's got to do it. And we're happy that he put it's not us. And thanks for sacrificing for it. That's what it's about. And the bases where you can drink, it's nice having a few drinks with them and listening to them, because that's all. They just want to be listened to and pass jokes around. New faces for them to tell their stories and jokes to.
Yeah,
which is it's really what it's about. And I've been fortunate to go on 5 or 6 of them. It's hard because there's not a lot of sleep, because you're constantly moving. It's another base, another show every day. It's kind of like being on the road as a musician, I suppose. But it's one of the highlights of my career, and definitely something special to do. It upsets my wife because I'm gone, 3 weeks at a time without being home, and she gets lonely. But it's for something bigger.
Yeah. Well, I hope you've never bombed at one of these bases.
No, yeah, that's one of the things. You definitely, in Afghanistan, you definitely don't want to bomb, because there's already, like, the bombs are going off and you're looking at them like, should we go to a shelter or something? And they're like, nah, they're still far enough away. We'll let you know. And I'm like, okay. And they walk around, they still have their weapons on them in case something happens. And, you know, you're a high level target. So you have security with you. It's you know, one time I wasn't on this tour, but my buddy was. He was in Jordan and they had riots there, and he got stuck in the hotel, like locked in the hotel for days because the riots in Jordan. Like, that's scary. We thought when I was in Ethiopia, we thought there was going to be an uprising, and they were like, be ready to be, you know, like either locked in or on the move. So things change in a moment's notice depending on where you are. So yeah, Afghanistan was a little hairy because we asked, the guy who was running the tour asked to go to the remote bases, and they hadn't seen people. You know, they get locked down there for 9 months a year, and no one had come to visit them. So, you know, those are the people who need it. And I was still kind of new in the business. Wasn't, you know, you progress in funny, you know, tomorrow I'm going to be funnier than I am today. So I was definitely not that good back then. So, and they laughed at me because there was nothing else to laugh at there. So.
Yeah, I bet it's pretty intense for those guys, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And there, you know, there's one guy, he stands there, he's watching the cameras on the base. You know, they're counting cattle, and, you know, they have to look at the cattle to make sure there's no bomb underneath them. You know, because someone would put one of the cows and put a bomb underneath it and blow up the gate, you know. Like they have to do, and that's it's not easy. We take it, you know, for granted as civilians. We really do. We don't know that half of it. We just don't. That's why when you get some politician telling you something, you know, whether it's Trump or anyone, they don't know what they're talking about unless they've been over there. And even sometimes when they're over there, they don't know because it's such a huge operation. It's impossible to know everything. I met Colin Powell one time. I dealt blackjack to him. And he was explaining the military to me. I was getting ready to go on a tour, and he was explaining how it works. And I was really happy to talk to him. I asked him who was the most difficult person he ever met, and he didn't really say, but he said that the guy from Russia, the last communist president of Russia that had the thing on his head.
Gorbachev.
Oh yeah,
Gorbachev. Yeah, he said Gorbachev had a body odor problem.
I think most Russians do.
Yeah, that's what I kind of felt the same way. I've been around a lot of them in Chicago growing up, and I kind of felt the same way. But you'd think a guy that was head of state would, you know, bathe.
Yeah.
But that's what he told me. I thought that was pretty good.
Or maybe he scalded his head on hot water one day, and he thought, "I'm not going near that stuff."
Yeah,
that's what it was.
He looks completely different now. Looking back, I don't know what's better, having Russia the way it was in the 70s and 80s, or Russia the way it is now. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, you can't say, can you?
Nah.
So touching on that, I mean, how do you practice your stand-up, Keith?
Well, I'm fortunate now that I have regular work, and I'm a house MC at Jokesters Comedy Club at the Alexis Park. So I get to go up all the time. So I'm constantly on stage, and I could work out new material there pretty easily. Going on the road, just send my information out to the bookers. Hopefully, you know, there's a lot of great comics out there. So to be able to do any work is wonderful. And if I need to just get on stage because I haven't been up in a while, there's lots of open mics.
Yeah.
Here in Las Vegas, so you could do that. And there's other booked shows. Other, you know, some of my friends, you know, who like me, will go, "Oh, you need to work something out. Come here." If I have a big gig coming up that I need to work some material out for, they'll give me a couple extra minutes so I can work it out and get ready. And that's kind of what all comics do. Like Chris Rock, before he goes on the road, or before he goes and does theaters, he'll workshop his act at the comedy clubs he likes, where he gets a good crowd response, and he'll workshop it. And then he'll go to theaters and do it around theaters, and then he'll film it. So you know, that's how you get the maximum amount of money on it. I'm not quite at that level yet. I'm still at the working it out in comedy clubs phase.
All right, we need to get you a deal with Netflix.
Yeah. I'll do a half-hour Netflix special.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the thing.
I think they pay pretty well.
Yeah, even if they don't, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends what level you are. I mean, Rogan and them sort of people are on mega money, and they.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're doing well. But I just want to make people laugh. That's it. That's, you know, the reason why I do it. I just want to make people laugh. You know, if I got to kick around and do odd jobs and ghostwrite things and sell, write jokes for other people and sell it and make stupid videos and
Talk to us.
yeah. But I love talking. I talk too much. I can talk forever. So
That's all right. I mean,
yeah, you guys are great.
What's the most memorable moment of your career then? Let's first of all ask you about your table career then.
Oh, table games. Watching a poker player, Phil Ivey, lose a couple $1 million because he's not a nice person. That was pretty entertaining because he was throwing water bottles around. It was pretty entertaining. And and then he'd have to calm down because fans were there watching him, so he'd have to calm down. That was pretty fun. I enjoyed that. For my show business career, I'd have to say being in the Hangover was definitely right there. Definitely right there. And honestly, anytime I get on stage, like I did a show and there weren't a lot of people in the audience the other night, and it was hot out. There's other things going on in Vegas, and it was just as much fun to be in front of them as it is to perform in front of 500 people, which I've done. It's just being able to get up on stage and tell my stupid jokes every night is just such a gift to me, to be able to make even one person laugh, because it's all it's what I like to do. You get so much, there's so much pain in the world, and people quietly going through pain that we don't even know about, especially coming out of the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, you really get to put everything in perspective. I mean, I know it was pretty bad here. I mean, casinos here, in Vegas, they didn't have locks on the doors. They had to put locks on the doors. Caesar's Palace hasn't shut down. It opened in 1966. It never closed its doors until the pandemic. So, like that level of shock to people, forget people getting sick, forget people dying, like that level of shock, it just, you put it all in perspective. And I know a lot of comics that have been doing it a lot of years, 30, 40 years, that with that time off came back with a new power, a new desire, a new lease on life, because they were just burnt out. And being able to put it all in perspective after a break like that, and almost losing everything through no fault of your own, really makes you realize that you're not in it for the money. You're not in it for the fame. You're in it for spreading the joy. Yeah. And that's why I do what I do. And I think musicians are the same way. Yeah, they want their songs to be heard. They love making money. But it's really about just, bringing that joy to people.
Yeah, the money comes as a bonus, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. The money, the money is, that's great. But the joy people get when they leave a show and there's the smile on their face and they're like, yeah, that's awesome. And they didn't have to think about anything but what they were doing for that hour. It took them out of their world. Like, that's what it's about. And that's the greatest feeling in the world as a person, is to make someone else feel that good. Yeah. I think that's why we do sex. Not just for us, but if you can make someone else feel good, that's great.
No, not in the UK. It's all about us.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever made anyone else feel as great as they've made me feel like sex, but
that's it.
I'd like to think so.
So, from a comedian perspective, then, who are the guys that you look up to?
Well, I'm fortunate to have a guy that took me under his wing named Don Barnhart. He really is a mentor to me. So he's not really well known, but if you get a chance, look up his material. It's spot on, and he's been in the business a long time. He's a great guy. But I like guys. George Wallace is great. Jerry Seinfeld, George Carlin, even like Rodney Dangerfield. If you go watch his Johnny Carson appearances, they're fantastic. Like even like Don Rickles. Like Don Rickles' comedy, by today's standards, he would be canceled. He'd be out. But his sensibility, the line has moved since he's been around. But he has no fear. He'll make fun of Frank Sinatra just as much as he'll make fun of you or me. It's fantastic. And then I like old stuff. Like I'll watch Jack Benny shows, old Jack Benny shows. My wife called me the other day. I'm in here cackling. She's like, "What are you watching?" And it's like an old Jack Benny show, and I'm dying because it's just so funny. It's just such old funny stuff. So I like the old timers. It's easy to say Richard Pryor or anything. Richard's great. He wasn't as big an influence on me as Billy Crystal was.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so Jerry Seinfeld was a big influence on me, because you got to look at the world and then slightly change the view, and showing the world through your eyes is something that those guys were really able to do, and do it in a funny way.
Yeah, I mean, Seinfeld's a genius, really, isn't he?
Yeah. And without, I like the guys that travel on the edge a little bit. Bill Burr is funny, and he's great. And I know why people like Dave Chappelle. I totally get it. And to come out with that much comedy over and over again is really good. Jimmy Carr's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great. His delivery is funny. Do something with his eyes.
Yeah.
Deliver that joke and it'll go like this.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. Yeah, he's good. He is good, and he's sort of a lot of his act is where he's taking the mick out of himself as well with Jimmy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he'll kind of like take the mick out of somebody in the audience, but switch it around to make it about himself as well, so to try and take an offense away from it. But at the same time, he's quite happy to offend people anyway, isn't he? So
it's such a gift. What he does is such a gift, like to be able to do that, and it's really a great style to have. And it's hard to do. Like that's why he's one of the only guys that can do it, because he's just that good at it.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of confidence you have to have. And what happens? Most comedians, have self-esteem issues. So to see them off stage and on stage are a lot of times two different people.
Yeah.
But to have the confidence that Jimmy Carr has, go on stage and do what he does is just unbelievable, fantastic.
Yeah. It's like I'm a massive fan of Robin Williams, and you don't know what's going on in their private life compared to what they're doing on stage. Or I've seen when he's sort of, I can't remember if it was the Oscars or the Golden Globes and all that, when he goes up and either does a speech for accepting an award or introducing an award for somebody, and the stuff the guy comes out with, he's just absolute genius.
He's unbelievable. I mean, and he's got a memory.
Yeah.
I mean, he was considered a joke thief, but a lot of people give him a pass because subconscious, his subconscious, he could just draw in other people's material. And if you went up to him and said that he did a joke of yours on the Tonight Show, he'd write you a check.
Yeah.
He had his checkbook with him all the time. He went to a comedy club. I know people that have opened for him that were friends with him, and he was very, very generous, very good. I remember being on an overseas tour, and he had just done one, and they had said just what a great guy he was. And he didn't, a lot of times when acts go overseas, they get the same money they would get if they were performing a show here. So like the USO tours, they pay the rates because their agents want that money. Robin didn't take any extra money. He got, because you really don't get paid on the tours I do. You get a per diem to cover, food, but you don't really get paid. So and he didn't want any money. He just wanted to go and do his jokes. And there's a limitation on what you can and can't say, right? They don't want you to be too dirty. They don't want you to talk anything that comes close to misogyny or rape, anything even close. And he was, I'd be nervous because who knows what's going to come out of his mouth. He was fantastic. They said his shows were great. There's a Kid Rock went over there, took no extra money, and would sit afterwards with a guitar and sing songs and take requests to sing songs and drink beers with the people until he fell asleep at 6 a.m. every night.
That's cool.
So like, those are the guys, like those are real true patriots. Those are the people who really are doing it for the right reasons. Yeah. There's other people who go over there and get their $500,000 that they, for their band and everything, because that's how much it takes to put on a show of, some of these country acts. And they take the money, which is fine. I mean, if you offer me money, I'll take it. But if I have the money, I'd rather not, because that's not why you do it when you go over there.
Yeah. Because when we were talking about when you went over to talk to the troops, and that made me think about what was it called? Good Morning Vietnam. And Robin was doing that, and he did the same thing, didn't he? He was going out and talking to the guys in the field and everything. And I remember kind of like, obviously that was a long time ago, and a lot of the stuff that he was trying to do, they were censoring. Did you have any issues with any of your material being censored when you were over there?
I personally didn't, but some of the other guys did. But you know that going in, because they don't book you unless your material is okay, is worthy. A lot of times it depends on if the commanding officer is in the room. When we ask, I'm pretty good about asking, you know, hey, is there anything that's been going on the base that we shouldn't, you know, make fun of, that we wouldn't know to make fun of? You know, has there been anything going on? Like, no, you know, and they'll let you know, hey, listen, we don't want any F words, we don't want the C word, you know, they'll tell you. And if the commanding officer is in the room, the people won't laugh unless he or she is.
Okay.
So that happens sometimes. But Good Morning Vietnam, I saw it when I was getting out of high school, and it made a big impact on me. I actually wanted to do radio after that movie. And I had a Good Morning Vietnam moment when we were going into Afghanistan. We were on a bus from where we were in Kyrgyzstan, getting on a bus to go on a plane into Afghanistan. And we had a group of guys from Guam, not even a state, Guam. And then the last time they were there, they lost a few guys. So here they are going back. We're in a bus with them. Everyone's tense because we know we're going into the, as they call it, the shit. And all of a sudden, one of the guys back there breaks out a dirty joke. And I'm with me and 3 other comics. I break out a dirty joke. We're just doing dirty jokes back and forth, the whole bus ride till we get to the plane. And we were laughing and giggling the whole time. And then we all get off the bus and we all just hug each other, because we had that moment where it was like, hey man, be careful out there. Come home alive. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. And they felt the same way with us. And we just had that very special, touching moment where it was like the last bit of joy before the pain starts.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was very moving, and it affected me quite a bit. Over the, you know, I think about it a lot, and it's affected me over the years, and kind of driven me like, don't forget, you're in this for the fun, you know?
Yeah, that's good. That's nice, isn't it? That is good.
Yeah.
So going back to your comedy routine, how do you deal with hecklers, Keith?
It depends. Some things happen. Some people want to heckle, like they want to be part of the show.
Okay.
Right? They came to a comedy show, they feel like they're a comedian, they want to be part of the show, or they've had a couple of drinks and they want to be part of the show. Some things you could let slide. You just don't address it, because sometimes you tell a joke and then people want to comment on the joke like they're at home and you can't hear them. So you got to settle them down a little bit. So sometimes, like if they're talking like, oh, what did I? Oh, sorry, I thought I missed something. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of, but if they're yelling something at you or something like that, then you have to, you know, go at them a little bit. And, you know, you have to be careful, because you could turn a crowd by saying the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, if it, you know, someone will say whatever, if they're being annoying, and the crowd, they don't want to hear hecklers. They paid to see a show.
Yeah.
They paid to see professional comics. So, you know, you go with it for a minute, then you just kind of say like, hey, you look like a lady that would try anything. Yeah, why don't you try shutting the fuck up so we can get on with the show? And they usually get it, and the crowd will applaud, and then you could go.
Yeah, I hope you say that to the guys.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, try shutting the fuck up. You here with your wife?
You're a lady.
No, I go, yeah, not surprised. Yeah, not surprised. So, yeah, you could, and you know me, I'm a ball breaker. I'm an old crab stealer, so I love busting people's chops, but that's not who my stage persona is. So I have to be careful, because I'm a guy who has to be likable. I have to be likable on stage in order for my act to work.
Okay.
So I can't go too hard at the audience unless they give me a reason to. So if someone's being really annoying, they give me a reason to, but knock on wood, it hasn't been too bad. I've seen these things go south and sideways really fast. So I've been fortunate. Like I say, if I get people to like me at the top of my act, then they won't bother me the rest of the show. It's, if you're being edgy, if you're being snarky, then people are more apt to say something snarky back to you, because they feel like they want to comment or have something to say, or they have the liquid courage to say something crappy back to you. So I'm fortunate in that way.
Yeah.
I'm still, you know, I'm not completely clean. I don't really use profanity. I talk about sex and, you know, seeing my parents having sex and things like that. So, you know, it's not necessarily a rated G show, but I still want, you know, I can't just come at people, just shut up, just stop talking,
Yeah.
you know.
It's
And
been
you know,
a
it's hard
sort
too,
of,
because
go on.
I was to say it's hard because sometimes, you know, the waitress comes around and gets drinks, people are ordering and they're talking loud because, you know, it's hard to hear, especially we were doing shows where people in the audience had masks on. So, you know, they're trying to have a whisper. There's no whispering with the mask on. There's no ordering a drink with them. You know, it's hard. And comedy clubs that come and drop the check. So there's a lot of movement and activity, and you just roll with it. You just have to keep going. So, you know, a waitress drops a tray of drinks, something happens, there's people arguing at a table, you know, you have to call attention to that. I've seen it. Guy having a heart attack, you got to call attention to it.
Yeah, I hope so.
You know? Yeah. Because then you really killed. Yeah. You really killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. They, you know, guys having a heart attack and, you know, they save him, they get him out of here. And then it's like the nerve of that guy to have a heart attack at the middle of my show.
Well,
You know,
maybe he was laughing
like,
too much.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're drinking, you're smoking, you're laughing, and you know, fortunately he lived.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a night and day difference then between your act and your, I mean, your persona then, if you like, when you were dealing.
Yes, yes. Because when I'm dealing, I have the utmost confidence because nothing's gonna. It's so simple. Nothing's going to change. And I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't care if people liked me. They complained about me all the time. More people liked me than didn't like me. So people actually enjoyed when I'd bust their chops, and I'd let them bust my chops. But you have a different relationship with people because you're the dealer. They can get up and go to another table. There's a guy that doesn't speak English right next to you, you know, won't talk to you at all if you want to have that kind of game. Or I could bust your chops and go, you know, hey, wow, you're really not good at this. You should try roulette or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you ever go back to working the tables?
If I had to.
Yeah.
I told my wife does real estate. And I told her that I would rather work 2 casino jobs than to have her go into the casino business. She worked in the casino business. That's where we met, but she hasn't been in it in over 20 years. And it's when I say easy job, it's mindless. It really is mindless. You just go in, you deal whatever they tell you to deal. You handle the people however you handle them, and you go home. You make sure no one's stealing. That's all you're really doing, you know. And if for mindless work, it's really great. But if you start caring, like, boy, you know, they're really bringing in some bad, you know, our players are real pieces of shit. Like when you start caring about stuff like that, it's over.
Oh, don't lose so much. Stop losing. You know, it's like
it's over when you start caring about the place you work and you're just a number like that. Like you're never going to win. It's all stuff that's out of your control, and it's easy for me to look back now that I haven't been in it in a few years and say, oh, I really should have just let things go. But when you're in it and you're seeing things and it's affecting your income, and you know, like you just care too much. It could become stressful. You know, it just becomes too stressful. So, so while I was dealing, I had to get through 8 hours, and I'm dealing the stuff I was dealing with. They were hiring. I was working in a place. They were hiring people that didn't know how to deal, couldn't speak English, and they're getting paid the same thing as me. Yeah. I'm dropping $1,000 in tips, and I'm getting $100 the next day. Like I'm starting to get a little upset after a while, and so I just stopped, you know, caring so much, and I just let loose. And I wrote some great material on those tables. I still have friends that come see my shows to this day that have been friends of mine for 15 years, 16 years since I've been, you know, started at the Venetian, that just love the comedy and they would stay at other places, but come see me and sit at my table for 8 hours just to have me bust their chops. But then they'd come see my show, and I'm not that guy. It's like Bob Saget. Bob Saget's like that. He's like Full House, the nicest guy, the softest guy. Then you go see his show, and he's filthy, filthy with the worst, filthiest things you can't even imagine. Bob Saget, he's you know, the nicest guy on Full House. He is nothing like that on stage.
Yeah, it's good to have a different persona, isn't it? I mean, you have your public opinion, I suppose, and then
Mhm.
you have what you go and really like to do. It's like naughty sex.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a separation because your on-stage persona, your voice is kind of a heightened version of you, but it's not you. So there's, a lot of truth in the comedy you're giving, but you have to heighten it and expand it and make it more to get it bigger, better punchlines, everything. So, and that's the hard part for new comics. They want to tell their stories. They want to tell their life, their things and things that are funny, like they really happened. And sometimes you have to spice it up a bit, and it doesn't really happen that way. I tell a joke about taking my wife to a place called the Heart Attack Grill and seeing a guy have a heart attack there and they saved the guy, but looking at my wife and going, hey, what do you say tomorrow night we go to BJ's Pizzeria?
Yeah.
Now, it may not have happened that way, but that's the way it happens in the joke.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes it funny. A guy really didn't have a heart attack there. He had a heart attack there like the day before, but when they told me, that's what I said. So that's kind of how it works.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, mate. You got any questions, Dave?
No.
Too busy being starstruck here.
Oh, please.
He is. He's a bit
Barely.
of a fanboy,
You guys
Dave.
You had Susie Quattro on, man. You had Right Said Fred on this show. I mean, like, these are big stars. I mean, that dude was too sexy, man. Susie Quattro was on Happy Days.
Yeah, we spoke about that, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable. I mean, that's fantastic. I'm just a guy who had 4 lines in a movie and tells fart jokes to strangers every night.
Hey,
and
mate,
my wife makes sure.
Go on.
I was just saying, my wife makes sure that I remember that. Do the dishes, fold the, like she makes sure, like you're not as big as you think you are. Like she keeps me grounded. The residual check comes in and it's go to put it in the bank, and I got to remind her, like, hey, look at this, and she's like, yeah. Did you vacuum?
That's right.
So, what's the biggest tip that you ever had when you're doing tables? Then, I mean, do they pull it? Do they pull it over the week, or do they pull it daily?
In Vegas, they typically pull it daily. That guy Lowe, it was his 30th birthday, and I think he tipped us. I wasn't on the tables, but I think he tipped us over around $1 million. So we made like a couple of grand, $3,000 or something that day. I mean, it was insane. There were people who were off of work that day who heard he was there trying to come into work. Yeah. Every time they heard he was in town, which is a hard thing. Like, he may have stayed at a different casino, but they'd hear he's in town, like, because your a relative works at a different casino, and like, oh, Lowe is here. Like, they're trying to call in, hey, can I come into work today? You're like, no, you can't. Sorry, your day off. Just in case he stopped by. But me personally, I've had people give me like $50,000, like $52,000 once. Guy won pretty big. There are people who've tried to offer me money off the table, and I'm just too honest of a guy to take it. I can't do that.
Okay.
So, hey, can I take you to dinner or something? Like, if we had a friendship, I would do that. But if they tried to give me money off the game, I would never take it. Because I'm an honest guy. Like, if I catch you stealing on my table, like if another dealer was stealing, I'm turning them in. That's it. But I'm not going to, if you said something stupid, if you were a dealer that did something stupid to a player, like called him an asshole or something, I'm not going to go to the boss and tell him unless they ask me, hey, did you hear this person say this? I'm not a rat. But theft or anything that's, like, I have a line, and money is where I draw the line. You got to do the right thing.
Yeah. And you touched on something earlier about, you were saying about the poker tables. They get their own tips then, if you like. Yeah,
they get to keep their own tips. Yeah.
So have you ever worked at the poker tables?
I haven't, but I've worked with. I've dealt to a lot of poker players, and they may be good at poker, but they're terrible at craps and blackjack and roulette.
Yeah, I have it. That's a really different. They're different games.
Yeah. Well, craps, blackjack, and roulette, like those in baccarat, those games are built in to beat you.
Yeah.
You may win in a short amount of time, but over the long period of time, you will lose. Whereas poker, there's a little bit of skill involved, and you can, you're playing against someone else whose skill may be less. So that's all. And most, I would say 90% of the poker players are really not nice people.
No, I've seen
Really,
a few on
really cheap
television.
degenerates. Yeah, they're really not. There's one guy who he would donate all his winnings in his tournaments to charity, but he'd stiff us. He'd win 185,000 and stiffed us. Gave the cocktail waitress $25 as he tried to look down her top, but he stiffed us. I'm like, this guy, what a jerk. I'm great. I donate my money. Yeah, what about the guys working? Like you can't even give us a $25 chip. You want 185,000. What's wrong with you? Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with him. He's a degenerate, and any money he tips, he can't gamble. That's the mentality of a degenerate. That's why Michael Jordan doesn't tip. Michael Jordan's a degenerate. If he tips, he can't gamble it.
Yeah. So have you had big sports stars in there gambling?
Yes. Charles Barkley, fantastic. Some football players. Jerome Bettis is an American football player. There's an former American basketball player named Charles Oakley, who's on the Bulls for a short time and then the Knicks. He was trying to cheat at the table, and I told him stop about 5 times. And finally, one boss threw him off the table, and then his boss told him, "Oh, we're sorry. We're sorry to upset you." Like, why are you saying that? Because he's famous? He's not really, number one, all that famous. Number two, he's trying to cheat, like go to jail cheating. And eventually he did this at a different casino many, many years later, and they arrested him.
Oh, right.
So when I see this guy, Charles Oakley, he got tossed from Madison Square Garden. He used to play for the Knicks, and the owner had him tossed out. And everyone's like, "Oh, poor Charles Oakley." Like, Charles Oakley is a jerk off. Jerk off.
I hope he doesn't watch our podcast.
He could let him. Let him. Same with J-Lo. I challenge J-Lo to not be a stiff.
I challenge her to watch our podcast.
I challenge him. Charles Oakley knows what he did. He was past posting. He knows it. Kevin Federline knows he's a good dude when he was with Britney Spears and had money.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on Joey Exotic then? That's kind of like big news over here, or was during lockdown because of the Tiger King series on Netflix.
I saw it.
Massive in the UK.
Tiger King. Well, I never dealt to him, but if he tips, I got no beef with him. You can do whatever you want. Same thing with the lady who killed her husband. Feed him to the alligators.
Yeah.
He probably deserved it. But there was a guy here, John Wayne Bobbitt.
Yeah, we know him.
Cut off in the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
He actually lives in Las Vegas. He became a porn star, lives in Las Vegas. He moves furniture now. John Wayne Bobbitt is not a nice guy. He's mean. He's doesn't tip well. So I don't, he got what he deserved. Now that lady who fed her husband to the alligators, I forget her name. If she tips, she's more than welcome to come. And her husband may have had it coming.
Yeah. There's a program we watch over here called 90 Day Fiance or 90 Days to Wed.
I watched that. Yeah.
Yeah, do you watch it?
Oh yeah, there's the guy Colt.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Vegas.
I mean, yeah.
Yes. So Colt had a friend that helped him work out on one episode.
Yeah.
His name was Steve. And Colt threw up. I know Steve. Steve is a hypnotist.
Okay.
And I talked to Steve about this. Yeah. So I've never seen Colt, but I've talked to Steve, and Steve says that the portrayal of Colt on that show is not quite how he is. Yet I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, me too.
I see a lot of people around town who look like they're on 90 Day Fiance. They're an old person with a young woman. There was that guy who was chasing that girl in the Ukraine for a while. I've never seen him either. He works for the city, I think, in the computer department.
Okay.
Remember, he'd go to the Ukraine and he's like, I got to meet her in the Ukraine. And
she
would never show up.
What was his
Lana,
name?
yeah, Lana. She would never show up, and then she finally showed up. I've never seen him, but I know he's around town. I think he works for the city. I've
Oh,
heard.
right, okay. Because I think he's full of shit. Actually, that guy.
He
I mean,
is, yeah.
he was saying he was going to buy $1 million motorhome and stuff, you know. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Meanwhile, his house is decorated in like mid 1980s casino shit.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
he's got a dresser in there from the old MGM. Like, hey, he ain't doing nothing.
And he spends all his money on the fucking chat lines.
Yeah. A guy like
what,
that ain't doing anything.
and what about that Larissa's new boyfriend?
Well, it's funny because I worked the comedy club in Colorado Springs quite a bit, and they're roaming around Colorado Springs. I've heard. I don't know him, and I haven't seen Colt's other Brazilian girlfriend with the big tuchus.
Okay, yeah, but that all went off, didn't it? She married someone else.
Yeah, she married someone else here. I haven't seen her, but I know they're around. And so I'm waiting for them. Every so often, I'll look out in the audience and I'll see someone that looks like them. I'm like, "Are you on 90 Day Fiance?" And everyone will laugh because they're thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
They're like, "Yeah, you look like her. Yeah, you look like Colt's mom." I'm like, "Debbie, is that you?" He's like, "Debbie." I'm like, "Debbie from 90 Day Fiance." He's like, "Ow." The voice is the same.
Yeah, smoke 50 a day and
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm sure that Larissa's new fella was gay, you know.
Oh yeah.
He seemed really gay, didn't he? I mean, he was like paid for. I know he paid for new boobs and everything, but I mean, she did complain that they weren't having sex and stuff. I mean, he just came across as gay, and but I don't think they get paid, do they, on that program?
They get paid a little bit. They get paid a stipend, but all of them, there's a certain amount that you have to get paid by law here in the States.
Okay.
A minute, whatever it is, but they make all their money from like Cameo.
Yeah.
And like the Elizabeth in Florida. Yeah, appearances. That the lady in Florida, Elizabeth, whose family does the real estate.
Yeah.
I don't know. They all have. She's the one that went to Moldova.
Oh, I can't remember. I mean, I watched so many of them.
Yeah. Well, they do a lot of cameos, what's called cameos. So they'll deliver a message for like $50 or $100.
Oh,
birthday message.
The Freds do that.
Yeah, birthdays and stuff.
Yeah. So you give them 50. You know, it's like give them $50. Someone said I should do that, and I don't want to. Like, if you ask me, hey, can you send a video message to my friend? I would do it for nothing.
Yeah.
Because you know that's. I mean, I'm just nice like that. I mean, if a lot of people ask me, maybe I'd ask for $5, but you know, I donate it to charity. But I mean, they do that, and they have like something called OnlyFans where they do like topless photos and stuff. A lot of them do that. That's how they make their money on that stuff. So
yeah, I was thinking about doing actually. I mean, I was looking into it the other day about trying to get my license so I could marry people, you know. And I thought, yeah, I could just do chops in weddings and just berate people, and then
that'd be great.
See how they would.
We've done that. We've done that. We've done some comedy weddings before. We have my friend Don. We have a couple guys that can do weddings, and we've done absolute comedy weddings tailored to exactly what you want. You tell us how you want it, we'll do it. If people dressed in drag queen wedding, we've done it all. Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's great, man. I mean, I'm really, but I looked into it. I haven't actually told David about it, but I looked into it, and you can get ordained over the internet, especially in America and in Europe, but it isn't legally standing in the UK. So that's sort of scupping my plan a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you'd have to be here because I mean, like our laws, everything's a side around a law here, right? Like
that's it, Dave. We have to move to America.
Yeah. In Europe, you got taxes, you pay taxes. Here, if you got enough money, you could sidestep.
Yeah.
And people in America admire people who sidestep taxes, whereas in Europe, it's like you need to pay your fair share. Yeah. Like you get berated, right?
Well, I mean, you had one as a president, so
yeah. Well,
you know, allegedly.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm fascinated. It's you know, in the beginning it was like, wow, this is weird, and then you're like, wait a minute, this guy's going to be making policy choices. Then you're like, wait a minute, no, he's not. He's appointing people who are kissing his ass to make policy choices. They've already made one bad decision by kissing his ass. How smart do you think they really are? And I'm not a political guy. It's, you know, I just don't like being lied to. So, you know, I guess other people do. I don't care. And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
We're
know. I don't
Americans.
know.
We're not that smart.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how it went in America with Trump, to be honest. But I mean, a lot of people liked him, and a lot of people didn't like him. You know.
I thought it was quite scary from a perspective that somebody like that had as much clout as he did, and we found it a bit comical in the UK, and then we elected Boris Johnson. So
Right.
you've got the two knobheads, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, they're both cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Right. You start making one bad decision, then you got to justify the bad decision by making another bad decision.
Yeah.
It's like now, like our thing now is the election was stolen. Well, obviously the election wasn't stolen. They recounted it 50 times the way that they've done it forever. So we know it's not stolen, but because you believe this lie, now you got to tell another lie, an even bigger whopper to justify this one. Now you got to bring in outside people. Oh, there's Mayor Giuliani. You got to bring in all these people to tell their lies, and it just grows and grows because people don't want to believe the truth. They want to believe that they're right all the time. And it's okay to not be right. Listen, your guy lost. You think, what if Hillary Clinton would have been screaming like, "Hey, this was fixed. The Russians this, the Russians that. I'm the real president." It wouldn't have happened.
No.
So
It should have.
Yeah, well, who knows? Everything's meant to happen for a reason, I don't know. But if you just keep telling people that their vote doesn't count or that the vote's stolen or it's my way or the highway, and registered parties, there's more Democrats than Republicans. So that's why the Republicans do what they do to keep people from voting because they never hold any power. So it's basically minority rule here, which, when you go back and look at the history of minority rule, they start doing things like apartheid in South Africa. And that's the big fear here. And we have these laws that we're supposed to hold true that have been around for 240 years that they just don't follow because they're like, we're going to argue.
But some of those rules are a bit out of date, I think, aren't they?
Some of them are, and some of them are. And they try to keep them because they're out of date, like allowing people to vote and certain things. I mean, women couldn't vote until 1920. That's 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Why? It was too important of a decision for women to do.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They're raising your kids.
Yeah.
It was a bit later than that in the UK, I believe.
It was. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's because British women are different.
Yeah. It is.
What are we doing?
Crazy. Well, there is a law in the UK. I can't remember where it is. It might be Hereford or somewhere. But an Englishman can kill and shoot a Welshman with a longbow.
Yeah,
Wow.
And he can still get away with that. It's still law.
Yeah.
In Britain today. So if you're walking, I think it's Hereford. So if you're walking around Hereford and you see a guy with an England shirt on with a longbow, walk the other direction.
Yeah, walk the other direction. Well, there was a time here in the early 90s where if you were an American football player, you can kill your wife and get away with it.
Yeah, it was. Especially if you were black and you were in funny movies.
Yes. And he actually lives in Vegas too.
Allegedly.
Vegas. Yeah, allegedly. Well, he was found guilty in civil court, so he has to pay the fine. As a matter of fact, here's an OJ story. One of the casinos for the Cosmopolitan, someone that worked there said that he was there drunk and belligerent and they threw him out and went to the tabloids with it. And it wasn't true. So OJ sued. He won the lawsuit. They haven't said how much it is. They think it's around 30,000. And he won the lawsuit, but he can't collect the money. The judge just decided it goes to the Goldman and Brown family. So he sued him only to give the money to them. And they're still owed $50 million now with interest. It was 20,
Really?
It was 32 million and now it's up to 50. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, and OJ's around town. You'll see him all over the place. He's over on the west side, the nice part of town, playing golf with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to get his memorabilia back.
Yeah. Well, that was awesome. And they had to do that, like only in Vegas, right? Like you can't bust into a room in a hotel and say, "Give me my shit back," in Las Vegas, because who else would do that? Everybody.
Yeah,
You do that to every hooker that robbed you. It would be a plague. So you can't do that. So this is the only place. Like if you would have done that in LA, they would have been like, whatever. You would have done that in New York, they would have been like, all right, don't do it again, But in Vegas, they aren't hearing any of it. Nothing. You're going to the joint, bro. we don't want anyone else doing that because everyone would. Hey, that hooker stole, my watch, which happens every single day, probably 10 times a day.
Yeah.
And you can always tell the girls in Vegas that are hookers because they're the ones that talk to you.
Oh, right. Okay.
I thought you were going to say they're the ones wearing the nice watches, Ed.
They're the ones that talk to you. Yeah. Hey, do you mind if I bring my friend with me? Okay. They bring their friend with you. They tie you up. They take your shit. They're gone. And then what are you going to do? They look for married guys. Because what are you going to do? You're going to tell the police you were mugged. You're not going to tell them that it was 2 hookers because your wife will find out.
Yeah.
That's what they look for. That's a little tip from your Uncle Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, Dave. If you go to Vegas, no kutching.
No, that's right. Yeah.
And don't bring change to the strip club because the girls hate it when you make it hail.
Oh, the only one notes, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. If you got a room that faces the pool, don't touch the curtains with your hands because those aren't nose prints on the window.
All right.
All right then, mate. Oh, it's been great talking to you, Keith.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. I'll talk your ear off if you let me.
That's great. I mean, so tell us your best dirty joke then.
Oh, there's so many.
I mean, we got to get a dirty joke in. It's just chopsing.
All right, here's an easy one. And it's not even that dirty. So a little boy comes home from school, sees his parents having sex. The father looks over at the little boy, goes, ha, ha, ha. Little boy goes running off. Parents get finished, clean themselves up. They find the little boy, and there he is in his room having sex with his grandma. Little boy turns to the parents and goes, ha, 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 not so funny when it's your mom, is it?
Yeah.
Or what's blue and comes in brownies? Cub Scouts.
Okay. All right then, mate. Like I said, it's been nice talking to you.
Pleasure's mine.
And yeah, hopefully we can talk to you again. And when you get your book coming out, or when you're going to be doing your next movie.
Yeah, next time I got some things in the pipeline. I'll give you guys a jingle. Well, I'd love to come back on.
Man. Yeah, that'd be great.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Keith.
And when this comes out, let me know, and I'll make sure I post it to everywhere.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, no problem. I'll drop you an email with a YouTube link and everything.
Perfect.
All right, thanks, man. I will share socials around as well.
Yeah, I'll cut it up and put it on TikTok.
Yeah. Be a bit of a long one.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks. Take care.
All right, thanks, man.
Thanks, Keith.
Bye-bye.
There you go, and he's gone.
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it went on a bit longer than I thought. I don't know.
He did say he liked talking, man. And you were Chopsy tonight as well. You can tell you're definitely over your coat. Well, not over it, but getting better, which is good.
Well, I kept looking at you thinking, are you going to fucking say anything or not?
You seem to be on a roll, so now you got on with it.
No, I was like, because a couple of times we had a bit of a silent moment, and I was like, all right, I better talk again. And I was like thinking, come on, Dave, can I ask a question or something?
You just kept going.
I had to.
Everything I jotted down, you were already covering. So I was kind of like, all right, okay, tick all that off.
All right, okay.
But no, it was cool, isn't it? It's like I said, I've never ever been in a casino myself. Never been in one. And I've never been in a casino, and I've never been in a strip club.
Oh, so, I was going to say, you've never been in a, yeah.
So, yeah, so, that's kind of like the Las Vegas experience, really, I guess, isn't it? That's what people go there for, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we went there. I mean, we went to San Francisco with one of my mates. Actually, the mate who sent me the listener question about the wheelchairs.
Okay.
And I went to San Francisco with him.
Yeah.
And we decided that we were going to go to Las Vegas for 24 hours. So we flew from San Francisco out. Where did we fly from? We flew from over the bridge in I can't remember what the place is called now, but you go over the bridge. I'm sure it begins with an O. Well, it doesn't matter anyway, but we flew there. I mean, it's like taking a taxi. I mean, you go to the airport, you jump on a plane, you're for an hour, and then you're in Las Vegas, or an hour and a half, I think it was. And then we thought, well, we'll combine it. Because before I went, it was for my 40th birthday. So my brother bought me tickets to see Tom Jones in the MGM Grand for my 40th birthday. So I thought, right, well, we'll do that, and we'll go to Las Vegas, watch Tom Jones, go hit the casinos and have a good night of it, and then fly back to San Francisco and then carry on with a San Francisco experience, So yeah, but we went there, and then we won about $3,000, maybe $3,500, I think.
Cool.
And it was like, yeah, that pretty much paid for the whole trip.
Yeah,
it was really good. So yeah, been to a casino or two.
Yeah. So what game was you playing?
Poker.
Poker, was it?
Yeah. I'm playing the other shit. So just a couple of games of poker, and that was a nice trip. Actually, went to Alcatraz when we were in San Francisco. Met one of the ex-inmates. He was in there selling his book.
All right.
I can't remember his name now. But my mate bought his book anyway. Paul bought his book, I think. And he said, oh, yeah, I used to be one of the inmates in Alcatraz, and I'm selling my book and my story and stuff. I said, oh, okay, what did you used to do? He said, oh, yeah, I used to be a bank robber, and I was pretty good at it. I said, well, you weren't that fucking good at it, mate. You ended up in Alcatraz. My mate says, shut it. So that was quite funny. It was quite a nice trip, and it's cool.
Yeah, never been there. So the only experience I got of the US is when they're on holiday. So we did the Florida thing.
Okay, yeah.
And then I was actually going to Mexico. So we flew into LA, landed there for maybe an hour or two, and then flew from there to Yuma, and then went from there down to I think it might have been San Diego, and then went over the border from there then.
Okay.
So but that was for work. So like I said, you don't see a lot, do you? Unfortunately, people seem to think that it's glamorous when you go abroad with work, but you don't tend to see a lot, unfortunately, because you're from one airport to a hotel and then into the plant. So
you don't see anything, do you?
No, not really. You do have a down day if you're lucky, but
There's plenty of them days if you're not on your tablets.
Yeah, that's right. But, unfortunately, I didn't have any of them when I went over there, so I didn't get to see much. I remember we flew over the Grand Canyon and hanging out the plane and having a look at all that, do you know what I mean? But apart from that, I wouldn't mind. I watched the Billy Connolly thing when he did Route 66 and all that, and that looked pretty cool. We went from one end to the other, and I think things like that could be quite interesting because you get to go through different towns and see different cultures, because it is it's a mammoth country, isn't it, America? So
San Francisco is very European,
Yeah, okay.
And then you go to Las Vegas, and it's all like, well, the strip is all lights and
like Blackpool.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So
it's not as big. You wouldn't want to take a family there on holiday either, really, would you?
No, but
bad weekend.
Do you know what? I can't imagine that now, that it just smells like weed everywhere. I mean, that must be fucking terrible. I mean, obviously, because I'm in Holland, and sometimes you can smell people smoking it when you're walking through the streets, and it fucking stinks, man. Yeah, so if the whole place is like that now, I mean, that's just that's really bad.
Nasty,
Yeah, it's not nice. I don't like the smell of it at all. So
no, it's gross.
All right, then, mate.
Right, cool. So
I'm surprised you weren't too starstruck.
Yeah, I watched the movies earlier on, so it's great. They're just really, really good. And I was saying it earlier on, I couldn't think of the funniest part, but I think from the first one, I think it's got to be Tyson when he when he punches out when he's singing "I'm in the air tonight" and stuff. I think that's probably the funniest bit. That's got to be. That's it's just awesome, absolutely awesome. Especially the first time. I mean, don't want to spoil it for anybody if they haven't seen it, but the first time you see it, you don't really expect it, because first you don't expect to see Mike Tyson in a movie, and then for him to lamp him out was brilliant. That was really good.
Okay.
So yeah, I love them movies. Love them.
Yeah, there was one on over here not so long ago, but do you watch that 90 Day Fiance?
No, never seen it.
They don't have it on over there, do they?
They might do, but I haven't seen it.
Yes.
I don't know. I'll have to have a look to see whether it's.
There's some whack jobs on there. Like what it is basically, it's about people that fall in love from that's from the main person's from the US, and then they fall in love with somebody abroad.
Okay.
Like in Africa or whatever, and then say they've met him 2 years ago or something, and I don't know how the program picks them up, to be honest, but and then they have to apply for a K1 visa, which allows that person in Africa to come to America and get married to the American citizen. So whether they're male or female doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
And then they go, but on the K1 visa, they've only got 90 days from the time they land. They've got 90 days to get married.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, yes, funny. I mean, we watch it quite a lot, to be honest. But it's getting a bit. It is pretty much all the same once you watch one season. But obviously, the characters are different people.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some fucking nutters on there. Like, it's funny. Look at Big Ed. 90 Days to Wed.
I'll have a look.
And he's this little guy. He's got he calls himself Big Ed. He must be about 3'6".
Yeah.
And he's got no neck. And he's like when he walks like this, like a fucking midget. But like Danny DeVito,
Yeah.
Only a lot fatter, to be honest. And he went to the Philippines because he met this Filipino girl online. And you went there, you went there to propose to her and everything, and then he wanted to take her back to America, but he was just a wrong one. Like, he told her she needed to take an STD test, and he told her she needed to buy a fucking toothbrush because her breath stunk, and this sort of nonsense. Just look him up, man. Look him up on YouTube. Big Ed, 90 Days to Wed. He's a fucking idiot.
I'll have a look, because we did watch Married at First Sight Australia.
Okay, yeah.
And we only caught it. I think it might have been on like season 6 or something.
Yeah.
And we were like episode 10 before we started watching it. And we kind of like, Sarah got hooked first of all, and she ended up watching all the back catalogue, kind of like to catch her back up with the series. And then I was watching it with her, and she said, you need to watch what's happened before as well. So I ended up doing the same as well. And I was kind of like the same, but I was a bit disappointed because they're not really married. So
okay.
They go through the ceremony when they first meet, but they're not physically married by law.
Okay.
So they just have a ceremony, which I was a bit disappointed at. And then what they have like after, I think it might have been 3 months or something, they have a renewal ceremony as well afterwards, whether they're going to decide to do it or not.
Oh.
So it was good because there was like people cheating on each other in it. And, there was, and then you vote to either leave or stay. So if any one of the couple votes to stay, they have to stay, even if this one guy wanted to leave. And there was a couple on there, and this one guy had voted for like 6-7 weeks to leave. And what he didn't know was his bird was messing about with somebody else.
Okay.
So she kept saying stay because she wanted to see this other guy all the time. So it was like, and then it all come out in the end. It was great. It was like all plate smashing and people kicking off, and it was really good, really, really good. But they got like not specialists, but like advisors on there, talking to them about their relationship. And I don't think they necessarily knew exactly what was going on as well with these different couples getting involved with each other behind the scenes. So it was, it was quite good fun. That was a good laugh.
Yeah, they got some really weird shit on the telly, man. They got one program on over here now. I can't remember what it's called, but you have one date together, like a meal in a restaurant, or it's like a purpose-built hotel, restaurant type place, and then you go off and fucking sleep with each other.
All right, okay.
And that's the program.
Okay. Well,
It's like and then they do that other one where they do like nude dating and stuff.
naked attraction.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on
They
with
lift
stuff?
the screen slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my daughter's friends went on it,
Okay.
and he actually went on there. And what happened was he was a contestant to be selected. So they have like 4 of them, didn't they? And there was another guy.
But I haven't watched it.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So they have one person turn up, and they reveal. I think it might be 5 people. Reveal these screens. So first of all, you see their knob and bollocks. Then you see their chest, and then you see their face. Then they talk, so you get to hear them. Well, during every round, they vote one person out. So, like, if you got like a little knob, you vote it out first, normally, in fairness, even though they always say it's nothing to do with that. They just didn't like his thighs, or he had funny toes, or something like that. They try and think of another excuse. Well, this guy that Shannon knew, he ended up meeting his current partner. He might have met him before the show or after the show, I can't remember. And he's been with this guy now like 3 years or something. So something really good come out of it. But he didn't get picked. He just happened to meet this person there who was on the show with him.
Okay.
But everyone I've seen, the women always pick the guys with the biggest dongs. Everyone I've seen. Honest to God, that's how it goes. So
I'll be booted off first.
Yeah, so if you got a big dong, you're normally guaranteed to sort of like get to the end. And it was the same with the women as well. It's wrong, it is. But what's interesting with it?
You've got a massive gash. You're off.
I didn't mean that. If they got a good figure, but they've mixed it up. So they've had like gay couples on there. They have non-binary people on there as well. So they mix it up. So not to say that I've watched it a lot. Do you know what I mean? But like it's been on. I've been channel hopping, and like Sarah come in the one. I said, "Well, the fuck you watch it?" I said, "You need to watch it. It's unbelievable." Scylla would be turning her grave if she sees it.
Surprise, surprise.
It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. It's really, really funny.
Oh God! Well, I can honestly say I haven't watched that program.
But it's what makes me laugh is all of them say they're not confident people.
Well, no, it doesn't matter, do they, if you're standing behind a screen and you can't see who they
But they're
are.
going on national TV, bollock naked.
Yeah, but they don't. If they get booted off before the screen goes up all the way, then it doesn't matter, does it?
No, because if they get booted off, the screen comes up and you still see the full person.
Oh, okay.
And then what happens then is like, he got a nice bum, or he got good shoulders or something. I should have kept him on, even though he got a little todger. You know what I mean? Because it's all right for women, isn't it? But if the studio might be freezing cold.
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it?
You might have cold hands. Go warm your hands up.
All right.
But yeah, it's you need to watch it. It is the most bizarre program I've ever seen anyway.
Okay. All right, then, mate. I'm gonna.
Yeah, go on. It's a long one.
Watch it, but
yeah, this is a long one.
It is a long one, yeah. So, all right.
That's what she said on the show, actually. In fact, there was one guy who won, and he only had one leg.
Okay.
But his todger was as long as his other leg. So she kept him in because he had a nice personality, apparently.
Yeah. It's not because he could run fast.
Oh, that's right.
What fucking Mike Jones was it?
Has he got like an elephant tattoo?
I don't fucking know what he's got.
This guy, right, on his torso, either side of his schlong, he had like ears for like an elephant. That's what his tattoo was. You need to watch it because it's funny. I'm gonna watch it tonight, I think.
Right.
Oh, dear.
Oh God, I'm going now.
Yeah.
Gone off it again. On a tangent
You
again.
should have gone 45 minutes ago.
Nobody wants to listen to us paid laughing.
Anyway, let's do it.
All right, mate. See you next time.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right, ta-ra.
All right.